everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Performance Cafe. It is lovely to have you here. It is December, it is swelteringly hot here in South Africa, and everyone is pretty much getting ready for the festive season. And it's been that kind of year, right? And I'm sure that South Africa is not unique in that we sometimes feel the need that we need to commemorate this year. We need to do something to close off this year. And I've actually stolen a little bit of a concept that I want to share with you today. And I've stolen it from the marketing guys who love to, at the end of the year, go back to clients and do a little bit of a review with them around how certain products or services worked, it didn't work, what did they learn, what's up for the next year. And I thought, what if we did, they call it a year-end closeout discussion, but how would we hold a discussion to wrap up with team members at the end of the year? So I thought I would steal some of these thoughts around a closeout discussion for the end of the year and see how we can apply it to team members at the end of the year and see, where's everyone at? So I think the first thing is, what is this not? It's not a performance discussion. This is not the moment to really go deeply into what went wrong with the year and how the person could have taken this further. And I certainly see these discussions as being one-on-ones. I don't see it as necessarily a team discussion. And so I think they need to have a bit of a casual check-in, share a couple of personal updates. I think so often in business, we try to keep things absolutely professional and so focused on work and productivity that we skip over the personal stuff. And maybe you can start by sharing a personal update from your side, Maybe you're excited about a particular holiday you're going on or a hobby that you have that you're going to be able to spend some time on over the holiday. And then you can ask them, what about you? What's going to happen for you over the holiday season? How's, your family? Are you going away on holiday? Again, we're touching on the personal here. And of course, if you're aware of any family or personal concerns, bring that up, because that might be, a big part of what's happening for people in the festive season. And then next, maybe reflect a little on achievements. Discuss their accomplishments, but in a very conversational manner. So you can say something like, looking back at the year and the kind of stuff that I think were really great that you did, I'd like to talk to you about a couple, but what do you think? Was there something that you were really proud of achieving at work? And see if there's an overlap and have a bit of a discussion if there's not an overlap, so that you can also understand their values and why this thing that you didn't think was that important came up for them. Of course, we speak of experiences and the achievements, but certainly we want to also talk about a couple of learning experiences. So, for example, you can talk about, was there any new skills or any training that you went on, that you, or even, learnings on the job that were important to you? And again, this is not driving towards any big goal from the client side, from the company side. It's really just getting them talking about what their experiences were, very much just reflecting on the year. Next up, some positive feedback. We often think of reward and recognition as money, but just positive reinforcement of something that was done well and specifically stated in a sincere and a friendly manner. And for some people, away from others, some people feel, uncomfortable when they get praised in front of other people. But when you're in this one-on-one, just saying to them, I want to appreciate how much hard work you put in on X, and I could see how what you did made the difference. Just bringing that up, just reinforcing again what they did well and what really mattered to you. And then maybe also, again, just taking a look into, did they see that as important? Where was the gap? What's the value gap between you if it wasn't? Next up, you can then also, of course, speak about, was there anything that you achieved that you felt was overlooked or not valued? So, so often people will do a project or they will do a piece of work that's maybe outside of their normal scope that they really enjoyed, or that somehow resonated with their values or what they want to contribute in business. And because it's a small part and because it's not really part of their job, it's so easy for it to be overlooked. But see, are there things like that are going missing that can give you an idea into how else this person can be used in their role, other roles that they might be appropriate for, or other places that they want to learn? And of course, no reflection on a year would be complete without taking a look at challenges and the lessons learned through this. But do so with laughter. This is use the humor to lighten this conversation. This is not, oh, but when you did X, Y, Z, it was like, oh, it was so painful when that thing happened, and ask them, ask the person you're speaking to. When XYZ happened, we faced some interesting challenges this year. What lessons really stood out for you there, or were there any funny stories for you in this? Remember, we're trying to make sure that the person understands it's not a performance discussion, but just a reflection. And of course, once we've spoken about anything that they've learned and challenges that they've had throughout the year, if they don't touch on it, it's really a nice idea to ask them how they experience the team's dynamics in the year. So we're a new team or we're an existing team. Do you think there's something that we're missing? Do you think something came up this year that stood out for you around the team and how we work that you think is an interesting learning? Because you see, what happens there is that if that team dynamics doesn't resonate with them, it's going to impact their collaboration. And it also gives them an opportunity to one-on-one with you suggest ways to improve the teamwork, the communication, the collaboration, whatever it is. Because in the end, we want to help foster a positive and supportive work environment. And then, of course, at some point in time, we have to ask about work-life balance. And you can do this by asking whether they feel that they are able to maintain a work-life balance. You can ask them whether you think the business or the team allows for that to be set up. And you can also ask them about their well-being, because that sort of conversation is really those 3 points are really going to give you a good insight into what's really happening for them. You see, the problem is that very often with work-life balance, if it's not being modeled at the office, people don't realize they had access to it. And what also happens is if people are really working really hard and all we're focusing is on this productivity, we don't ever ask them, how are you? How's your well-being? And from that perspective, missing that part of the conversation is very, very bad for the team, because what happens is people will burn out, things will go wrong, and that's going to affect the team. So this conversation is also to understand, how does this person feel about work-life balance and their well-being at that point? And then it's good to check in with them again every couple of months. So maybe this is not just a yearly close-out discussion, maybe it's a quarterly as well, just to make sure that we stay on top of when those things shift. Then also ensure that they feel supported and make sure that they have the resources they need to maintain that work-life balance. And if you feel like this is something that you can't do, maybe refer them to someone in HR or a colleague who is better at it. It's kind of difficult to sometimes have this discussion as the manager, because often we feel like I'm the one that's placing the pressure on them with expectations, but at the same time, I'm supposed to ensure their well-being. How do I juggle this? If you're not sure, point them towards HR, because HR will have some tools, tips, and techniques for them that can be kind of useful. Now, we've covered off quite a couple of topics around work, around challenges, about well-being. Maybe it's time to take things a little bit lighter again and maybe explore shared interests outside of work, or share interests that you guys don't share, and maybe talk about why is that cool for you? Why do you enjoy that? How do you find it rewarding? And share yours as well. I think that's the important thing, is that this discussion should not just be a bunch of questions that we fire off to the person, but it's about how much you share of your own as well, so that they see that this is relationship building, understanding, creating connection. It's also a good thing to start asking again about career aspirations. So maybe you can discuss if the person has any long-term goals, and really just listen. Don't try and fit it in. Don't try and make it work. Just listen, because you might not be able to address their needs from this perspective. They might tell you that they want a career that's got nothing to do with the business. But if you hear why they find that stuff rewarding, it's not like when they're out of office, the hobbies, the extramurals they do. A lot of that tells you how people want to be contributed, how they want to contribute, how they want to be seen, how they want to show up. And so understanding that gives you ideas of how to make being at the office more rewarding for them, how to working with clients makes it more, how to make working with clients more rewarding, all that kind of stuff. So you can say something like, if you think about the future, are there any specific areas you're excited to explore or grow in your career? Or maybe, if it wasn't covered in the previous question about learning, something else you'd like to learn about the organization or within the organization. And then we start looking at collaborative goal setting. And the approach here is to maybe start setting some goals or taking a look at where can this person partner with others or get going. So the one thing I have here is I'd like to apply Hemingway's rule, though. The idea is not to set it up and wrap it up with a little bow in this discussion. It's really to start getting the conversation going. This is ideally a conversation we're really going to pick up on in January and then get going with it. Right now, people are tired. They don't have the energy, the wherewithal to think about next year. They really just want to close out this year. And the Hemingway rule is as follows. According to resources, a whole bunch of them, Hemingway's rule was to end a writing session by taking some baby steps into the next day's territory. So he wouldn't close up, he wouldn't sort of wrap up today's session or writing session and complete the story. He might actually start the next paragraph or the next chapter, but just a line or two. And then he'd abruptly stop in the middle of a sentence. So what he was doing was, often people will talk about writer's block, where you walk in and you're like, okay, I finished that off, but I actually don't know where to go. What he was doing is he was leaving a little trail of breadcrumbs, so that the next day you can go, oh, I started the sentence here, and then you'll just carry on writing. And the idea is that when I come back tomorrow, I'm going to be fresh. I'm going to have more stuff to write about. I'm going to be able to think about it, but I leave myself like a little clue of where I want it to go. So I want to do the same with the collaborative goal setting at this point in time, where let's start talking about, if you understand what the career aspirations are, if you understand what the learnings are this person's looking in or where they're looking to grow, say to them, give me a couple of ideas. How do you see this rolling out? But don't close the conversation. Say to them, I've noted down these 3. Let's pick up the conversation in January and we see what we can do about them. And then that allows you to end on a positive note. If you go further and you cannot comply with everyone's goals that they want to grow to, what they want to be, or you can't do it fast enough, well, then you're just setting them up for another year and I can't grow anywhere. But if you leave that kind of hanging and you prepare to take a look at it in January, then you can end on a positive note. And you can say, great coffee chat, really glad we had it. I'm really looking forward to another great year of working with you on the team. I really appreciate your contributions, as I said, and I'm so excited to see where we go next year. And so ending on that note, it allows the person to sort of like wrap up the year and go, okay, I've also reflected. Because often this is the other problem, is that we're so busy, we never stop and reflect. So we never know whether a year was good or bad. We just rate it by how hectic we were in the last couple of weeks, which is always the case. So end it off on a positive note, show that you're open to collaborate, show that you're happy that the person is on the team, and then you can pick up on this talk again in the new year. I'll be coming back to you next week with a couple more tweaks to those topics. The topics will stay the same, but really about how do I create that conversation? How do I create that environment and set that discussion up for success? And I think it's really about this, one foot in business and one foot in the relationship. How do we manage that? That's what we're really trying to wrap up for this year. So as always, if you've enjoyed this video and you're looking for more, we record these and upload them as videos on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And then related articles can be found on my website, performforward.com. If you have any questions or suggestions for topics, please do leave a comment on your platform of choice. Otherwise, I'll get back to you as soon as possible, and I'll see you next week on the Performance Cafe.